gone live streaming. Thumbs up, thank you. Okay, members, first item on the agenda is apologies. I have not received anybody, so if there's any indications from the floor for apologies. No. Okay. Second item is declarations of interest. I'm happy to take them as we go. Alderman Moutry.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to 3.1, I would declare pecuniary interest, and I'll leave the room for that item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Moutry, and we will actually move directly now to item 3. Agenda item 3 is the environmental health report. I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chair. This report is delivered every year to members, and it's a requirement by the Food Standards Agency that the Council have an up-to-date documented food service plan, which is available for both food business operators and for consumers. You will note in the paper that the plan sets out a review of last year, but also sets out the aims and objectives of the food service and how we hope to deliver the plan for 23-24. The detail is obviously in the appendix, and it is recommended that members review and approve the draft food service plan for 23-24. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. I think this is, as Elizabeth pointed out, an annual kind of requirement of the council. So we are still going to require a proposer and a seconder for this. So proposed by Councillor Paul Greenfield and seconded by Councillor McClelland. Members agreed? Okay, thank you. All right, members, item 3.2 is the draft response to the department for licensing of pavement cafes. Back over to yourself, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chair. This sets out a survey that the Department for Communities is undertaking to really evaluate the success or otherwise of the pavement cafe legislation that was introduced. Members will be aware that some time ago during the COVID pandemic, we introduced the pavement cafe licensing regime through a modified system. And then following the end of the pandemic in December 2021, we brought back the usual scheme of charging, etc. So the department is carrying out this evaluation, and you'll note in the appendix the copy of the proposed responses. So at this stage, we're just recommending that members approve the draft response to the DFC evaluation of the licensing of pavement cafes in the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Apologies, Alderman Moutry. I think you missed part of that report. It wasn't, I don't think, anything too controversial. That being said, we do still need a proposer and a seconder in terms of the response for the licensing of the pavement. Councillor Donnelly, you're happy to propose. Thank you. And Councillor Ferguson, thank you. All members agreed? Yeah. Okay. Members, item 3.3 and 3.4 are information items. If anybody has any questions relating to either of those 3 items, could you please indicate now? If not, are we happy to note? Sorry, Councillor McClelland.
Yes, Chair. I really appreciate you letting me in on it. It will be brief, and it's just on item 3.3 in terms of the form and the affordable warmth scheme. Obviously, since that scheme has been in existence, it has been important in terms of some families within our community, and I know the change in the agency that's delivering it, and I would certainly hope that the delivery of it wouldn't be any more complicated or wouldn't have to go through any more hoops than it has up till now. So if it's going to be the same or simpler for families in need to implement, that's fine. But I think there is a huge issue if it is going to be more complicated. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McClelland. I would doubt there's anybody in the chamber who would disagree with that. And I suspect that councillors will be one of the first to be aware if there is any negative impacts in terms of the community. So I suppose watch this space, and hopefully it will be a service that, you know, maybe even could improve in its deliverability. Okay, members, no other questions relating to those two information items, we will agree to note. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 4. The environmental services report. There are 3 decision items. So 4.1, I'm going to hand over to Glenn.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Item 4.1 is a decision item relating to the harmonisation of parks opening hours across the borough. Existing arrangements have remained unchanged, and this item relates to aligning the opening hours of our parks. And members should be aware that this will not affect any of the Armagh facilities, as they're not gated. The Banbridge area, which will cover a number of parks there, will open earlier all year round and longer in the summer months, but will be closed 1 hour earlier from the start of November to the end of January. There's no additional resource implications relevant to this, and it's recommended that members grant approval for the harmonisation of park opening hours.
Thank you, Glenn. We have a number of speakers wishing to come in on this. Alderman Greenfield.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me in. Thank you, Glenn, for your report. So, Glenn, just a couple of queries I'd have around it and issues around it, maybe is maybe a better way of putting it. One, certainly we welcome it being open earlier in the morning. I know that would be appreciated, but Solitude Park, I'm thinking particularly in Banbridge and other parks, are parks that are lit up in the evenings and would be quite used in the evenings. I'm not sure of all the Craigavon parks, and I know it's not changing them, but I mean, a park is lit up. I'm not sure it's a benefit that it closes earlier in the winter time. Probably part of my question around it is too, I know it's only an hour different, but we already have issues with people getting locked in the park because of the time, and they're not sure when they can get out. However, I don't really understand how we would ever, like, I struggle to read that to know when it would be open and not when you read through that report. How would we even communicate that to people? Because people don't tend to use it all the time, but if people just randomly go in, take a walk around the park. I know on a number of occasions I've had phone calls from people that maybe some of our staff have closed some of the gates on the lead up to 9 o'clock to get round, and I understand that, but it is quite an issue there too. And just another thing that was in when I was thinking about reading this report through, I mean, we already had, I was at a couple of events last year in the park where we have a skate park there, where there'd be no access into the skate park, which is with floodlights, with everything in there to keep, you know, sort of young ones that do use the park. And even then they were sort of complaining that they can't use it in the evening time. So I suppose I have a couple of queries around that. You know, I do appreciate it's some hours in the summer open a bit later, but I think 6 o'clock is quite early to be closing a park that has lights in it during the winter hours, by the time people get home and travel from work, even the walk their dog around. So I would probably have some concerns around that, just that where it sort of came from, why we would think it would be a benefit, if I'm being honest. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, take them on. Take them.
Okay, so we're just going to take all the comments and then pass back over to Glenn. So the next one on the list is Alderman Rankin.
Thank you, Chair. My comment is in relation to Drumore Park, which is a fenced park, and it's a relatively new park, and it was vandalised there recently in May or just before it. And there's an issue about getting it locked during the week, especially during the weekdays. And I can't see for the life of me why there should be a reason why staff can't pop over from the community centre and lock that in the evenings. I just cannot for the life of me see why that can't happen. So I'd like that to be looked at again, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Rankin. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is in relation to the harmonisations of the park opening hours. I have similar concerns, particularly around the complexity of the closure hours. I think within Banbridge itself, it is well known what the current closure hours are, and I just really wanted to know what the plan was and how you communicate this. Social media doesn't have the same cut through as it has, and we often as a council refer to social media as a go-to for communicating changes. Signage is an option, but it's not costed for in this proposal, and perhaps there's media partners in town. So I would have a concern that residents in Banbridge would not be aware of the closure times due to the complexity of them and how you would communicate that. My second concern is, while it's great to see that the opening hours are extended in the spring months, the September months are reduced. And the current schedule is that it's open to 9 p.m. in September and October, but the new proposed schedule starts to reduce those hours from the third Sunday in August. And given our changing seasons, perhaps warmer weather in September and people wanting to extend their evening activities, I'm not really comfortable with the opening hours in September for Banbridge parks. And I think they should stay open longer, perhaps to around the 9 p.m. mark. I do have a concern about the 6 p.m. closure, probably more because this park is in the centre of Banbridge and it is a thoroughfare and a way home for people after their workplace is closed. And 6 p.m. might be a little early, and I think we might run into problems, yes, with people getting stuck in the park. At a time when we're trying to encourage dwell time in our towns through out-of-season events in September, this does seem an odd proposal, and I would have concerns and would welcome the comments and feedback from officers on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, members, for that constructive feedback. I think based on that, we'll take that feedback and bring back an updated report to members following committee.
I think there have been a number of very well-made remarks and comments there, and I think there does need to be some more work done on this. All of those comments, I think, were worthy of further investigation. So if members are content, we will defer this item. Is that okay, Hilary? We'll defer it. Yeah, members agreed? Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's also in terms of ourselves. If, as members of this committee, if we read through the report and actually raise specific concerns, I think there are going to be anomalies in this, I suspect. And we obviously want harmonisation to be, I mean, it's difficult to look at that and actually feel like that is harmonisation. And so if members could just feed back their comments to Glenn or whoever in the department, make sure they're noted. Alderman Greenfield.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I was going to say, even if it maybe correspond with the Banbridge DA, because it's the only park that is getting changes in, and I suppose it's like everything is one harmonisation, but it's not a one fit that fits everything, you know, in each area, and some parks are lit up, some aren't, you know, so when we've invested in them. So just to bear that in mind, but maybe if it could be even fed back, if there's any additional stuff that, you know, could work with closely with others at the Banbridge DA. Thank you.
Okay. Comments were noted, so thank you, members. Item 4.2, I'm going to hand back over to Glenn.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Item 4.2 is a decision item relating to a reinstatement of charges for outreach to schools. So this proposal is to reinstate a small charge to provide a level of consistency between those schools or groups who attend Oxford Island and those who don't. Members should be aware that schools who are charged per head for a visit to Oxford Island, but if officers attend a school that is currently free. Leading up to 2016, there was a small charge to cover a staff time, and it involves a 3-hour school visit. So the proposal for the report is that we would reinstate a small charge for those outreach visits.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Councillor McClelland.
Yes, Chair, thanks for letting me in, and Glenn, thank you for the report. And look, you know, I think in terms of the biodiversity education programme, it is absolutely vital in terms of the role that it plays in terms of the education of our kids regarding biodiversity, wildlife, and so on. So it's good that it is popular, and I mean, I'm getting the sense from Glenn that it is a popular program. So I think that that's all very good. I suppose a couple of queries I would have would be, number one, the Navan Centre and the comparison in terms of the charging structure. Maybe a comment on on that. And my other sort of broader question or comment is
Councillor McClellan, did you want to come back in on that? Yeah.
Yes, Chair, thank you for indulging me and letting me back in. And thank you to Glenn. And look at, it was more for information. And as I said earlier in my comments, it's an important service. So I'm happy to propose.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Just a question on whether any engagement has been carried out with the schools and those proposed charges, just to see what their opinion is, just given their already stretched budgets at this time. Thank you.
No, there hasn't been any engagement with the schools around the cost, but I suppose the team are very aware to keep in touch with schools and aware of the budget pressures on schools. So the outreach programme becomes more important for our sales and conservation team.
I think it's a point well made, all the same, by Councillor Johnson. I think given the list of previous users of the service, it might be an idea for council to make contact and make them aware of the logic of what we're trying to do and the potential savings as well. Instead of having to hire a bus to go somewhere, we're providing the service. But I do think there is definitely room for some engagement with the schools. Councillor Flaherty.
Yeah, that I know. Yes, thank you, Chair. A number of the questions that I had about actually already been asked, but I have to be honest, I do have a wee bit of a concern about where this is going to balance with what's going to come in and what is already going out. If you go on this, and you're saying here, you've calculated that at £2 per child, assuming 30 children. That's fair enough. That's where you get the 60 from, right? And you've used the example of the charge at the Navan Centre. What is the charge in Oxford Island? Is it the same? Is it the same? And also, how many of these visits are we talking about here? Because I know, look, interest here. I have a sister, a teacher, who is reluctantly an eco teacher in the school. This is a huge part of their curriculum now, outdoor learning and being outside, teaching the children these things. So I do have a bit of a sort of worry about this when it comes to, I just assume by looking at this and knowing the pressure that schools are under, they're just going to say, there's another cost, never mind hiring a bus, because that would have been a different thing. They'd have used that for a different day for the children, if you like. They'll just not bother. They'll just not bother. And I think that's a big miss. So I do have a wee bit of nervousness about this, have to be honest. I don't think we've all the numbers.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Points well made. Councillor McConville Walker. I'm not sure if Councillor McConville is able to feed in. Maybe there's an issue with the ICT, is there?
Evening, everyone. I think I just wanted to echo just really what everybody else was saying. As a teacher myself, I know how valuable these resources are to schools. Particularly, we want to promote the use of eco schools, and it was more. Not every school has the same budget, so your smaller schools, those schools who are on a much smaller budget, might really lose out because they might not have the money at all to be able to avail of these. So it was really to echo what everybody else is saying, and just to make a bit of a plea that we look into this a bit further, and we definitely need to seek the school's views on this. I would also be interested to see, depending on how we move forward on this, a report of how many schools actually accessed it, and then how many schools will access it with these new changes brought in. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Alderman Greenfield.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I suppose, I mean, reading through this here, 2016, it was something we done. And I know schools and stuff are stretched and whatever at the moment, but I know also from working with some of the schools, they do get certain budgets for this, can only be spent on the certain types of things. And if they're not bringing the, using buses to come, I can understand where this will increase. So, but I suppose just without it pushing the vote and people not sure, maybe some more work should be done with schools if we deferred it and came back again, maybe with a bit more work with the schools. But I'd be keen to see, does it make a big, the numbers and how many were here, because we certainly don't want to lose out, and they all come in and get the eagle flags, and it's a big thing for the schools. But I can see that some of the budgets are set only for this type of thing, so it's not directly maybe affecting. So I'd just be interested to see if that maybe a wee bit more work around it, if everyone's agreed to defer it till a later stage with some more information come back.
Okay, thank you. I am conscious we do have a proposal on the floor from Councillor McClelland. I'm in members' hands. I can't say for sure, in terms of budgets and stuff within schools. If members are agreed, maybe we could do some more feedback with the schools before we make this decision. Or are you? Got some answers to my question. But do you want to? Yeah. Do you want? Yeah. Well, I'll bring Glenn back in firstly.
So just to give members some indication of the numbers, so about 7,000 pupils a year use Oxford Island. Last year, the team provided outreach to 23 schools, and so that's the number. So certainly we'll take those comments, do some engagement with schools who have used the service in the past, and bring back an updated report to members.
Okay. Right. So so Councillor McClelland, just for the minutes, are you happy to withdraw your proposal pending further information?
Yes, Chair. In the light of the discussion that we've had and the commitment from officers, I withdraw the proposal.
Okay, and do we need another proposal for that? Yes. Are you happy enough? We'll accept that proposal from Alderman Greenfield. Just need a seconder. Maybe yourself, Councillor McClelland. Could you? Yeah, happy enough. Yeah. Right. Well, that covers that. Okay, members. I think that makes sense on both those items. Final decision item on this is back over to yourself, Glenn. 4.3.
Yeah, members, this relates to some tree felling works in relation to a shared boundary between a council and Seago Orange Hall owners. So it's a shared boundary. There are 4 large beech trees there, and a number of the larger limbs over the last couple of years have fallen both into the cemetery and the grounds of the hall. Proposal is that the beech trees are removed on a 50-50 split, and members are asked to approve that.
Thank you, Glenn. Councillor Flaherty.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Glenn. Yes, I've been had discussions with Martin Corey over this. So this is we need to get this done, and I think this is a very sensible way forward. So happy to propose.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay, members, all agreed? Okay, thank you. Items 4.4 and 4.5 are information items. If members have any comments that they wish to make on these matters, can you please indicate? Councillor McClelland?
Yes, Chair, thanks for letting me in on it's on 4.5. It's to first of all declare an interest as a board member of the Agri-Food and Biosciences Institute, AFBI. And I suppose if I may make a comment in terms of the SUPB that's mentioned quite a bit in the paper, I know from other experience that certainly SUPB can be slow or payments can be delayed and so on and so forth. So it's just something for that maybe officers could bear in mind for future reference, that sometimes they don't necessarily meet their own deadlines in terms of the agencies that they work with. Thanks, Chair.
I think if Seamus McCrory was here, he could read us a book on SEUPP and their lack of payments. Okay, members, are there any other comments relating to these two matters? Or are you happy to note? Happy to note? Okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Evans. Apologies, I didn't see her.
You're okay. I just want to take the opportunity here to raise the fact where they have raised concerns about dog file efforts, and there is a serious lack of bins in quite a few numbers of the parks within the area. The South Lakes here itself, you could walk halfway around the entire lake before you find a bin to dispose of any dog filing that you may have. And that seems to be an issue in quite a few areas. I have been waiting 3 months now for a bin to be installed along the Kernan Hill Road. And can I also ask as well, since I've brought it up, about safe spaces for dogs? There isn't anywhere in this borough to take a dog and let them off the lead, bar the run, which is used obviously for the greyhounds and the whippets. There needs to be something else in the area for dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we probably need a whole evening just to discuss some of those issues, and that's not to take away from what you're saying. In fact, it's actually to give it some backing. I think the issues you've raised are well worthy of that. I noticed I'd been on the towpath at Scarva. ABC Council had a sign up saying, "Do not let your dog fit here." There was no bin to be found anywhere. And somebody had actually hung the bag on the sign, which I thought was a statement in itself. I'm sure it's not as easy as just, you know, we want one here, we want one there. I get there's more detail in it. This report, I suppose, covers the feedback from the public, but I think your points are well made and noted, and officers, I'm sure, will at some point give us a report on dog fouling and bins. It's been a while. Okay, Councillor Mallon.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Chair. 4.5 the project aims to improve water quality in a couple of number of porter catchments. But the lock and the blue and green algae, no. Would that help at all with that, would it? Big concern with the blue green algae and the lock and the underlegs.
Yeah, Councillor Mullen, the overall project is that ABC would propose to lead on would be in relation to water quality. That'll be focused on the Lagan and the River Blackwater. Now, if we improve overall water quality, then that will have a knock-on effect on hopefully reducing the likelihood of blue-green algae. But yeah, which feed into that. So hopefully that will have some impact on the current and future challenges that we face.
I think at this stage we'll take any help whatsoever to deal with that issue. I'm sure we've all been very much aware of it. Councillor Flaherty, you have your light on.
Yes, sorry, Chair. Yes, I had my light on there. Thank you. But I was going to jump back to 4.4 unless I missed it, because I'm sure Jonathan himself would know that it would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that it says requirement to upgrade and develop toilet facilities has been mentioned in this survey. This is something, as you know, I mention on a regular basis and will continue to. We have done very well of late, and I'm very proud of the council with some of the facilities we have developed. There are a number of our parks that are outstanding here that do not have any toilet facilities, Eden Villa being one of them. Mentioned it a number of times already in this chamber. I'd really like to see something progress there. As a matter of some urgency there in Eden Villa, it's one of our busiest parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and again, good evening, members. Certainly, some of the feedback that we've received in relation to our parks and open spaces has been really useful, and certainly in terms of setting the estimates for next year and the next number of years, we'll certainly do some piece of work around what some of these improvements could be around our parks and open spaces. But obviously, members, there's potential budgetary implications, and that'll have to come back through the estimates working group to set as part of the estimate setting process for members to make a decision on. But certainly officers will do a wee bit of work on that for the estimates process.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, members, for your comments, and they will all be noted. Okay, members, that will bring us towards confidential business. So members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into confidential session of the council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask the ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of this meeting can proceed? session. Okay, thank you. Okay, members, two other agenda items. Item 6 is correspondence. There are no items of correspondence. Agenda item 7 is AOB, of which I have received no notification, and I don't intend to take any from the floor unless it's an emergency. I don't think it is. So with that, members, I'm going to draw the meeting to a close. I want to thank the officers for their time and effort and responses, and yourselves for your input. And thank you. Safe home.